the world is in transition right now, moving from an old paradigm of I, me, they call it I consciousness, moving into the new paradigm of we consciousness. And they share that that's why we're seeing all this chaos that's happening in the government, in the world, how the countries are getting along, how the brothers and sisters are getting along, that type of thing. And because of the message of you're here to be the puzzle piece that you chose to be, it's how do you understand the blueprint that you brought in for the life that you're meant to live, and then how do you live it in the 3D world to be that puzzle piece so everyone else can fit in and you all can move into that we consciousness, the higher vibration.
Hello, my extraordinary women friends. As you know, I love to dance in both the spirit and soul side of business along with strategy here on Extraordinary Women Radio. And today we're going to dive deep into spirit with Vince Kramer, a fellow podcaster who I got to meet back in March on a podcast panel that we both were participating on. At the time, I didn't know all of Vince's story, how he journeyed through life as an airline pilot, in the military, as a corporate executive, before he found his way to being a transformational teacher and guide and clear conscious channel. And by that, I mean he channels. Imagine coming from his background and discovering that you have this amazing talent to channel from the other side. He had to reconcile it first with himself before he could really share his gifts. He shares this inspiring, soul-filled story and more in today's episode. Vince has a magical way of combining science and spirituality. His past experiences in stereotypical, regimented fields brings a more integrated perspective to the inward aspects of personal growth not often seen. Vince passionately believes everyone is unique and the creator of their own life and success, and he's on a mission to inspire and empower men and women and organizations and businesses and families to find success and happiness by designing and creating a life fueled by their desire. Let's meet Vince Kramer. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Vince. It's great to have you here today.
I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here, and I love what you're doing. I love the difference that you're making in the world, and to give me an opportunity to be part of that, I truly appreciate it.
Well, I think you're doing some pretty amazing work, and I'm really excited to hear about all the deep work that you and Mary are doing in the world of purpose, and really, just helping people step into that bigger light of who they are. It's very, very aligned with my soul heart for sure. And you bring in a lot of spirituality and science and all of that. To me, it's right again, once in alignment with, I'm about business and spirituality and bringing that all together. So I think this is going to be a great conversation. You and
I
I got an
agree.
opportunity. Yeah, and you and I got an opportunity to meet on a panel at Speakonomics at the eWomen Network, Speakonomics, and back in, I think it was April or May. I guess it was March. I guess it was. It was
March,
back in
yes.
March. Yeah, and so where I really want to start is your story. Let's hear your story. So you were a corporate executive, you're an airline pilot, and today you get to do all this amazing work as a transformation guide and coach. So how did you come across this journey?
Well, the interesting thing is that at Imagine Miracles, it's the business that Mary and I co-founded.
And Mary's
We,
your wife.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
we truly believe that we all knew the difference that we were meant to make before we came to Earth.
Mm.
And so the story I'll start with at 5 years old, and I didn't know this until I was 17 because my grandmother reshared this with me on her deathbed. But I told my grandmother that I wanted to help people love themselves so they could love others.
Oh wow! When you were
Yes.
5.
Where does a 5 year old come up with that? So obviously, I knew my difference and I hadn't forgotten it at that point. And the other thing that I wanted to do was fly airplanes. I used to lie on the grass, look up in the blue sky, see the airplanes fly over, and I wanted to be there. The funny thing is, it wasn't too long after that that my grandfather, sharing his roles on what it meant to be a man, and some stupid 20-year-old pilot who scared me in an airplane that changed my whole trajectory of what that 5 year old wanted to do. So we can go into that later if you want, but the interesting thing was that I truly learned how to be a man from the 30s, 40s, 50s perspective and compete, always be the best, never be let anybody be better than you, always accomplish, always achieve. The next thing was going to make a difference in your life. And uh, as I know now, everything was a gift, but along that journey, I would achieve, and it was never enough. So I would look for something else. So I joined the military, did very well for my rank, holding positions that you usually don't hold in the rank that I had. Teaching people how to fly airplanes, learning how to put programs together, managing $1 billion accounts. And it really moved me towards being ready for being in business somewhere or another down the road. Got out of the Air Force because I didn't want to stop flying airplanes. Got hired by a major airline, and once again, just flying the line wasn't enough for me. I needed more. I didn't feel like I was achieving and accomplishing the way that I was supposed to. And that's where I moved into the corporate level leadership at United Airlines, managing an entire fleet there and putting the
Wow.
programs together and everything around that. And then, like all of us, there's a time that we're going to get called back to what we're really supposed to be doing.
So true, right?
And it's funny because we talk about it in conscious wake ups and crisis wake ups. Conscious wake ups, I had those my entire life. There's got to be more than this. Wait a minute, I'm not as happy as I thought I should be. These are Grandpa's rules and they're not working for me. Those were all conscious and I didn't pay attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we get delivered something that's a little bit worse, right? A crisis wake up, and the first one was 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
I lost a good friend in Flight 93,
Oh,
9/11,
wow.
who worked with me at the training center. And the interesting thing was, Kimmy, I flew Flight 93 1 week prior. So
Oh
if it
my
would have been
gosh, Vince.
9/4, I
Right.
probably would have been the smoking hole in Pennsylvania. But I learned well from my grandfather. I had that type A military pilot attitude that, well, it couldn't have happened to me. There must have been something that he could have done. And I just moved on rather quickly. Not from the understanding of what 9/11 meant to all of us, but I moved on pretty quickly to what 9/11 should have meant for me because
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted to live life differently. Uh, One of the most heartfelt days of my life was 9/11 when I was sitting at home waiting to see if I was going to get the call to go to the accident site and to have friends and family and people that I barely
Mm-hmm.
knew call me to make sure I was okay.
Right.
And in that moment, I knew I want to live this life. I want to have that connection. I want to feel the love. But I shifted into Grandpa's roles shortly thereafter. So what does the universe do? It provides, right? Couple years,
Totally. I've
couple
got
years.
goosebumps from that story. So, yeah.
Yes, and it meant so much to all of us, really, that
Yeah.
it's huge. But I truly didn't listen. 2 years later, United went bankrupt. I
Mm-hmm.
lost 60% of my pay, all my retirement, took a cut in position, and really stopped believing in, trusting in loyalty. But what happened is in losing my retirement, my dad came into my mind. Well, if you're successful, you have a retirement. And you're supposed to, as the man, make sure that you supply everything that your family needs. You support your family. So very quickly, I moved into, okay, what can I do to recover that retirement? What can I do to support the family? So my wife at the time, Martha, we went out and bought 3 Annie Ann's pretzel stores. That was going to be the answer to our retirement
Mm-hmm.
in moving forward. Well, Dr. Atkins comes on the scene. You're not supposed to eat carbs, and the pretzel stores took a pretty
Oh,
quick
wow. I never
dive.
thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it took me about 3 years to bring the pretzel stores back up to a place where I wasn't going to lose my shirt and I could sell them and move on from there. And that was, I think, my third entrepreneurial business. So it wasn't like I dove into something that I didn't know what was going to happen. But shortly after we bought him, my ex-wife Martha said, Vince, I just can't work in this business. I can't work with young people like this. It's just more than I can handle. So I ended up taking on all of that business and working full time at United in the training center
Oh my.
and trying to deal with manager training and everything else. And because it took me 3 years to build everything up, there was times I was working 95-hour weeks.
Wow.
Never
That's
got
not
my attention.
sustainable.
Yes, I just moved on. And what happens when you are working 95-hour weeks and not paying attention to your spouse?
Yeah.
She had an affair and wanted a divorce. And that
Mm.
was finally the wake up call that woke me up to,
Mm.
Vince, you got to find out what's missing in your life. So I did just that. I went to Jack Canfield Breakthrough to Success 7-day workshop. And during that, there was this amazing meditation. And during the meditation, Jack had us get on this carpet and go for a ride. And we went up to a castle. And in the castle, an angel brought us a gift. And then my gift was a golden microphone. And we rode the carpet back down and then we journaled what it all meant to us. And in my journaling, I heard that angel say to me, what's missing in your life is you.
Oh my. Now,
And
had you practiced that kind of meditation and journaling, and that was new to you at that
yeah,
point?
not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I had one eye open to see if I was doing everything everybody else was doing. So he said, I want you to see yourself getting on a carpet, and I'd look to see if anybody was moving or anything. And so it was new to me, but the interesting thing after the divorce, I told myself, I am going to try whatever comes in front of me. And then after I've gone through the experience, then decide if it works for me or not. And that's the really probably the only thing that kept me in this seat
Right.
for that. But you know what I did? I gave up my grandpa's rules and I took on Jack's rules because okay, I want to be the next Jack Canfield. And that didn't work so well either.
Because we
And
can't beat somebody else.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. So then when Mary came into my life, and that's a whole nother story, she actually was came into my life 10 years earlier in that, and there was this a real energetic connection that I couldn't understand and she didn't feel, so it kind of weirded me out. But she came back in my life, and because I was searching, the door was open for her to share what she believed in spirituality wise.
Mm-hmm.
So she would share things like, we're all one. And anything that you do in the world affects everyone else because that's how energy works. And it's like, I'm not sure I believe that. And I started reading science books and I started looking at quantum physics and what the bleep do I know video. And I learned science is saying the exact same thing. It's just saying it in a different way.
Right.
And that's what really caught my attention to start looking at, okay, how can I live life differently? And how can I truly look back at what my grandmother told me at 17 and try to live what that 5-year old knew?
Mm-hmm.
So that got me to that place of, okay, I need to start learning more. I need to start figuring out. But I always knew that I was going to help people, and I knew I was drawn to teaching. I knew I was drawn to coaching, and that golden microphone just gave me another thing to think about.
Right. So just the pieces started to really come together for you. And so, Mary coming into your life was certainly no accident, right? I mean, what a perfect gift to come into your life to open you up into a whole nother realm. I always say that, people come in our lives and that's like at the right moment. And that certainly was the case.
Yeah, actually, we probably, the right moment would have even been 10 years earlier, but we were
Yeah.
both
You
happy in
weren't
our
in the space to
marriages.
hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so you have a book that the two of you have written. It's Awakening Through Moments of Choice. And so tell us a little bit about, how that came to be.
Well, the book is all about the story of truly me learning from my grandfather up through, and I know you mentioned him earlier, being a part of the round table and starting to channel a group at 50 years old, channeling, what the heck is that? For me, it
Exactly.
was
So
like
how did that even happen?
scary. So, uh, so the book is all about that, and we
Mhm.
wrote the book because we feel it's important for couples to realize, first of all, that they're together for a reason
Mhm.
and they can help each other on the journey of waking up to what you're meant to do here.
Mhm.
And then kind of explaining, because on my journey, I learned that we can tap into all this guidance that is available to us. That non-physical part of us knows all the answers, and we kind of ignore it because we've never been taught that.
Right.
So that's where the channeling came in. So here's a couple interesting things that happened. First, I in raising my hand and saying, "Put me in wherever you can put me in, higher self, because I want to learn and grow." Some friends had me sign up for an event that I had no idea what I was signing up for. Matter of fact, even the day I showed up there, I had no idea what I signed up for. But it was called an Illumination Intensive. And I was getting ready to go to that event. It was 5 days. Once I got there, I figured out 5 days, 18 hours a day. You sat in a dyad, so knee to knee with somebody else 10 inches away from you, and you answered the question, "Tell me who you are." And you would do that for 10 minutes, then you would ask them, and then you would move to the next person. And we did this for
And you did for
18,
5 days?
5 days.
Oh my goodness.
Well, right before I went to that event, Mary called up, and we had been just started dating, and she said, "I'm up in Aspen right now with my business partner and my son. Why don't you come up and hang out with us tonight, and then you can go home in the morning?" I said, "I don't know, Mary. I've got this event I have to go to, and I got to be at the airport like 6 o'clock in the morning." And she said, "Oh, I really think you want to come to this." So I guess FOMO, but I didn't want to miss out on anything. So I went to Aspen, and we had
Not a
Mark.
small drive from Denver.
No, not at all. And definitely not a small drive back to Denver
No.
the next morning at 4 o'clock. But the interesting thing was, we had a few drinks, so I had enough margarita in me to be accepting. Let's just put it that way. And after Mary and I went to bed, she said, "I want to tell you that I see this older woman next to you," and described this lady in very much detail. Well, she described my grandmother. And like I said, I had enough to drink to, okay, I can accept that.
Mm-hmm.
And then after she described my grandmother, and she never saw my grandmother, never met her. After that, she described this little blonde girl in a blue dress, in a white frilly blouse, and uh, bobby socks, and patent leather shoes. And it was like, "Okay, well, tell me more about this girl." And she said, "Oh, this is what I see." And it kind of ended there. But during that 5 days, Cami, 5 people said to me, "Do you know there's a little blonde girl energy with you?" And I asked, "What is she wearing?" And they described her exactly
Wow.
the way Mary did.
Wow.
So it's like, "Woo, there's something going on here. I really, truly have to pay attention." But still doubting the whole time. You know, something weird has happened here, but I knew Mary didn't talk to all these people. So usually at those kind of events, for the last 2 hours, they have this heart closing ceremony to just kind of close you back down so you don't go out in the world all wide open
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
be vulnerable. I didn't go. I went and I climbed on an airplane early and got home. Being an airline pilot, you got a few things that you can get away with. So I got on this airplane early in the jump seat, flew home several hours early. Mary, you got to come and talk to me. She finally made it over. We went for this walk, and during the walk, she said, I heard about the little blonde girl in a channeling. And I said, what's a channeling? So she described it's where somebody lets the energy come through them. They're kind of like a conduit or a pipe where the energy comes through. And I was like, okay, are you talking like a crystal ball? Or are you talking about psychic readers? Or what are you talking about? And she said, no, none of that. It's different. And she tried to explain. But I'm more than anything, I wanted to know how can I get one of these because I want to know what you found out through this channel. So I said, sign me up. Not believing in it, a
Mhm.
Catholic school all the way through high school, and but I promised myself I would try everything. So she set me up for this channeling, and I went to this channeling. The lady was very nice. She had tea with us. She just explained to me, I can channel for you three ways. I can just be a conscious channel and just let the information come through. You can ask me questions and then I can tell you what I hear, or um, I can talk to them and they will share their answers and then I'll share them with you and then you could talk back. So she gave me three different ways to do it. And I was like, I'm here. I want to go all the way. I want you to be a channel. So she took us in the back room, and everything was very cozy, very mountain-like. So it was easy to settle in. I couldn't relax because I didn't know what was coming. And she said, "Okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to bring the energies in, and I will see you when the energies are done." So I watched her face kind of morph a little bit, her posture change. And all the time, it was like, oh, she's a really great actress. This is really cool that she's this good of actress. And it started to get a little darker in the room. And I remember the clouds coming over the house. So I just justified that it blocked the sun. And then she started talking and she talked in a real deep, raspy voice. And once again, wow, what a really cool actress. Um, justify, justify, justify. So the energy started talking and introduced itself as Archangel Michael and pretty much said, young man, we've been waiting to talk to you for a very long time. Told Mary and her mom, who were both in the room, glad to have you here. Sit back, be quiet. We're going to talk to him. And started telling me about my life and why the things happened in my life. Once again, Mary told her that. Oh, yeah, we talked a little bit about that while we were having tea. So I was able to justify. And then, about probably 40 minutes into it, Michael said, do you mind if someone else comes in and chats with you? And it was like, sure, I'm here for the ride. So I watched her kind of morph again. Uh, a happier, more energetic posture, a very happy face. And then that energy started talking and introduced himself as Archangel Raphael. And here's the one where, okay, Vince, you're going to start paying attention. And I couldn't deny it. Archangel Raphael said, I am here to help you open your heart because you're here to open hearts. And I'm going to do it with red haired, blue eyed people. Justified, Mary's oldest, red haired, blue eyed. I just had some new friends come into my life that had red hair and blue eyes. But Raphael said, do you remember walking through Walmart last week and a little boy stood up in his stroller and he couldn't take his eyes off you and he fell out of his stroller and his mom caught him just before he hit the floor? That little boy had red hair, blue eyes.
Oh,
Yes, exactly. Actually, that was an oh my goodness moment. I had to
yeah,
pay attention because
yeah,
the little boy knew, the mom knew, and I knew.
right,
Nobody else.
right.
So I couldn't do no justifying. And then at that point, because I think they had me, I talked to a couple more energies, but Michael came back in and said, you are here to put programs together to help people find out why they're here, to open their hearts, to raise the vibration of the world, and we're going to bring information to you every night. And when you hear the words in your head, close your eyes, look up. If you see blue, it's Michael. If you see green, it's Raphael. Red is the female energy, and yellow would be Ra, the sun god. And no kidding, it started the very next night, and I would get in the middle of the night, I would just start hearing words, and I would turn on the flashlight and start writing down what was coming in. And that's my introduction to guidance. I just
Yeah.
couldn't deny it at that point. And then Mary finally said, Vince, you're an airline pilot. You can't be up all night, stay awake all day, and then go fly an all night flight. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to your pilots. It's not fair to your passengers. You need to do something about that. Would you be interested in trying channeling yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't feel comfortable with it. Um, I believed that energy was coming through that lady, but I didn't believe that any energy could come through me. And so for a year, I told her no, no, no. And then I was really tired after a long couple weeks of flying, and I said, okay, I'll try it. And it wasn't the most comfortable thing in the world, but it started.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my story of getting to
Wow.
channel.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. And so today you receive messages that are channeled through to you. And what's the types of messages you receive?
Okay. So the interesting thing is I don't receive messages much anymore. I
Okay.
truly connect, get out of the way, and let the information come through.
Okay.
So if the vibration that's coming through is high enough, I don't even remember what was said.
Okay.
Mary records it, we listen to it, and then we take
Interesting.
what we can to help people in the programs that we provide or whatever.
Yeah.
So the
And
mess
what are the programs you provide today? Tell
okay.
us about that.
So let me tell you about the message, and then that will take it into the programs.
Okay.
So their message is that the world is in transition right now,
Mm-hmm.
moving from an old paradigm of I, me, they call it I consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
moving into the new paradigm of we consciousness.
Yeah.
And they share that that's why we're seeing all this chaos that's happening in the government, in the world, how the countries are getting along, how the brothers and sisters are getting along, that type of thing. And because of the message of you're here to be the puzzle piece that you chose to be, it's how do you understand the blueprint that you brought in for the life that you're meant to live, and then how do you live it in the 3D world to be that puzzle piece so everyone else can fit in and you all can move into that we consciousness, the higher
Mm-hmm.
vibration. So our programs are based and built around that. How do how do we help individuals find the three parts of their purpose, their blueprint? Because it's not just our why, it's who, what, and why of us. That's the what we call your unique purpose. And then how do you understand being a multidimensional being? How do you navigate the 3D world to bring us the highest vibration of you is our second program, which is the year-long program
Yeah.
that we have. And then the third program that we share is we call it quantum thought. And it's really understanding how the universe came together to support you on your mission, why you developed the personality that you developed, and how you develop those subpersonalities that are still trying to hold you back and keep you stuck.
Yeah.
But our favorite is working with business partners or husband and wife couples or significant other couples to help each of them find their individual purpose, but then uncover the purpose that they're here for together and then help them support all three purposes equally.
Excellent. Excellent. And all three purposes being the two people plus the business.
Yes, or their individual couple purpose.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. Got
Hmm.
you. Yeah. No, it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. And it's this, my work, I came into my work. I mean, my book was Fire Dancer, Your Spiral Journey to a life of passion and purpose. So there was that point of finding, what am I meant to do? And it
Hmm.
was such, and like you, it was dramatically different than what my path had been. Um, and so, we each find these gifts that we have to bring into the world. And I know that's part of the work that you're really doing with, your clients. And so what does purpose mean to you? I mean, what's the meaning behind purpose? Because you can look at it through so many different dimensions. And I think for me, I see it as very dynamic, that it's shifting, it's changing, but there's something that's core in that. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. First, as the energetic part of the universe, I believe we're all here to experience the lower vibration of our energy stream, the higher vibration, and then to expand.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
I
the
like that.
third D and the fourth dimension where expansion truly happens in the universe. So we're kind of helping source energy, universal energy, God expand because of our experiences of the low vibrations and high vibrations. So that aside, I do think that we brought a difference into the world. We're here to uh, bring our gifts and talents to the world in a way that helps others bring their gifts and talents, which means we're all working towards fulfilling our divine intent, which is
Mm-hmm.
what we call our why. And
Mm-hmm.
it's our why is not, well, I coach this group of people, that my ideal client, and when I coach my ideal client, they're able to do X, Y, and Z in their business. I don't think that's our why. I think our why is when those people are able to do X, Y, and Z, and they interact with other people, what difference does that make in the world? How
Right.
does that
The
move
ripple
the,
effect
yeah, how
of
does
of
that
how.
move the needle?
Yeah. I
So,
believe that because it's like this ripple effect of what each one of us in our communities, in our circles, that the change that we can bring in our with our work creates even bigger change out in the world.
and I shared with you earlier when I uncovered my divine intent, my mission, my reason, I uncovered that I'm here to help open hearts in raising the vibration of the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And okay, if that's the difference, the neat thing about it is once we help everybody uncover that difference, I can go back to every aspect of my life, every relationship in my life, and see where I was living that why.
Mm,
So it was, and
that's
I've been
cool.
able to do it for everyone.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the realization is I've been living my purpose all along.
But you didn't realize it, and you didn't
Right.
realize how that. And I think that's I often am. I'm always really curious about somebody who makes a big change from the executive world to doing the work that they do today as entrepreneurs. And you clearly made that, and you did it in a big sort of way, right? Where you tapped into a whole different level of spirituality, but you didn't to be able to tie that back to those, the former roles that you had. And how do you see that connection, that thread going through there, and how does that pull through?
Well, a couple ways. The first one is the second part of our purpose, the way that we share it and the way the roundtable has shared it with us, is your gift. The gift that you've been given in your life, but the same gift is what you give to others.
Mm-hmm.
And that gift is your combination of your gifts and talents and the process that you developed to bring those gifts and talents to the world. So, one tie through of everything I've done in the military, I learned how to coach, I
Mm-hmm.
learned how to teach.
Right.
In at United Airlines, I learned how to run a business. I learned how to talk at different
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
I also learned how to, in my entrepreneurial world, how to build a small business, how to take care of the financial part of it as well as everything else. So one tie through for living purpose is everything that I did up until the time that I stepped into being a transformational guide, really, I learned everything I needed
To do what you
to
do
do that.
today. Yeah.
hmm So
Yeah.
there's the through of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
I wholly believe that. I believe that, we were put on this earth to do our work, and we get the life skills and the experiences and the stories that help us do the work that we're meant to do. I can look back at my own and do the very exact same
mhm,
thing through the different roles that I had over the course of my lifetime. And that evolution into how we show up is so beautiful. How does how does your spiritual connection help guide you in your business today? What is your business guiding you to, you and Mary's, because it's your business together.
mhm.
What where is spirit guiding you in your business?
The We're being pulled more and more to a younger group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason that's happening first, we we all reach that point in our lives where we kind of shift out of self-actualization into service.
Mm-hmm.
There's a point where I want to give back. I need to do more type of thing. And we've been working a lot with that group. But what we're realizing is that if we can help a younger group, so let's say we're talking to the grandparents right now, if we can move down age-wise and we're working with the parents, so one, they can move their beliefs into something that's empowering them, and they're bringing more of who they're meant to be to the world, it's going to ripple down to the children.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're moving into this higher vibration, like I believe that we are, the children need all the support they can.
Yeah, it's
And
a lot of
maybe
support.
we can stop sharing so many beliefs that have been limiting, and maybe not change our beliefs, but if we at least learn that we don't have to share our beliefs, maybe our children won't have to get to 45 or 50 years old to have that wake up call.
Yeah, I love that. So I always talk about spirit however you spirit, right? Everybody gets their spirit from all different walks of life. Like, you've got the channeling coming through to you. Sometimes it's like, for me, a lot of times it's out in nature. I mean, I certainly can look at my deck of Pony Pondering's card that I wrote and I go, who wrote this? Right?
hmm
So I get that. I mean, we have just different ways messages can come through to us. And we all have this gift. I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing, is we have a way to connect however each person's way is. What do you say to people that, are like, gosh, that seems really out there as far as channeling, right? I mean, you were even there very early on. You're like, what? What is this? What is this
hmm
stuff?
hmm
Um, how do you help people find their way that they spirit, whatever that might look like?
So way out there was woo woo, right? That's what we hear the
Yeah,
term woo
and I
woo.
love woo.
And really what woo woo is just something that pushes our beliefs beyond our willingness to accept.
Yeah.
And when things start opening up for you, you start experiencing things that you really can't explain from the old beliefs, the old
Old
filey
paradigm. Mm-hmm.
cabinets in the head. You start at least questioning what where is this coming from. The roundtable, as they come through me, their desire is for people to be able to connect to their guidance in a way and a level that's comfortable for them, so they don't need to worry about going to psychics or going to channels. They're bringing the information in themselves. So what I have learned and done a lot of research and got certified in different ways is how can we tap into that guidance in a way that we'll feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So some people do automatic writing. Uh, Automatic writing, I think with some twist, you really can see and believe that you're tapping in. We use something called active imagination that was founded by Carl Jung. He actually founded Active Imagination to help him work with his subpersonalities.
Mm.
But it's amazing because what you're doing is you're helping your brain shift off and on and letting information come through. So that's one of our main ways where people can start in almost like a movie script.
Yeah.
Cami colon, I want to talk to my
Yeah.
higher
So maybe
self
just write
colon.
it. It's the journaling you did way back
Yes.
at the Jack
Mm-hmm.
Canfield piece of it. And for me, my way into spirituality was through horses
Mm.
because I'd
Mm-hmm.
always been a horse person and I was always been a nature person. And, so that was what kind of started opening my world up to spirituality because I can go back to my corporate days and there wasn't a spiritual bone in my body.
Right. Yeah.
And when I started to see things and feel things, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And the magic would start to unfold. And then many years later, I was going through a rebranding in my business and I was doing some of this inner work of trying to, what does my business want to be? I was journaling on, I was playing with the eclipse. I was like doing all the things, I was like, and it was really kind of, I was in this ritual space and I got this message, your business wants to be a spiritual business. And I was like,
What?
what? No, I called my best friend. I'm like, I just got this message and it's just like blowing my mind. Right. And so we find our way. And I love how you describe that. We find our way that is comfortable for ourselves. And I know I would have never gone there. In fact, I actually had some walls up around spirituality from traditional religion, spaces early on in my life. And so I was like, I wouldn't have found my way there had the horses not opened me up into a different way to connect into
Mm-hmm.
those universal energies or, then the journaling and the pieces that came along behind it. So I think it can be really magical if we just open up to the possibilities like you've talked about.
Just to step beyond the beliefs of society right now that it's okay to tap into guidance at a level that supports you. And like you say, animals are so magic in helping us go that route.
Mm-hmm.
And I know exactly what you're saying when you talk about blocks because I remember when Mary first asked me, well, can you let this information come through? And I said, oh, yeah, what am I going to do? Sit in the cockpit and say, hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I talked to Archangel Michael last night. And, you know, it's not acceptable. And it was like, they're not only going to look weird at me, they're probably going to send me to a psychiatrist to see if I can be in the cockpit type of thing. But the fun thing about it is when people start seeing how they can connect, and then they start hearing or seeing things that they wouldn't have believed, and now all of a sudden, oh, there is a connection here. It's
Yeah.
huge. And I will. I'm not going to give a number, but there's a large percentage of our movies that are channeled, a
Mm-hmm.
large percentage of our books that are channeled, and that information is coming to us. We're being supplied with all the information that we need, and we get to choose how we accept it and how we move forward with
And
it.
that's part of the evolution of what's happening in our world that you talked about. I mean, I truly believe that our world is going, our universe is going through a big shift. And you've talked about from the I to the we, and it's that shift in a different way of showing up in the world. And these books, these writings, these lessons, my pony pondering cards, they all get us to stop and think and be in a different space and grow and expand with that.
For sure.
It's certainly a
And
journey for all of us.
yes, and a journey that we wouldn't have been here on this earth right now if we didn't want that journey.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. I think that's really good. So, what else I want to ask you? Um, so often people end up living to other people's rules, right? I mean, I think there's this space that, you should do it this way. You should grow your business this way. You should do these steps as a young person, as an older person, there's like all these shoulds. What do you say to how do we avoid that? How do we just truly live our life?
Well, I believe that there are no mistakes or coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
So we attract these people that give us their rules. We
Interesting. Yeah.
and in attracting it, there is a gift in it for us somewhere. And you know, if I wouldn't have attracted my, if I let's just say if I wouldn't have chose my parents, I wouldn't have had a grandfather that pushed me so hard that there's not a person alive that I can't talk to and say, I understand exactly what you're talking about. I understand how believing in something spiritual doesn't work in the world that you've learned to be in because
Mm-hmm.
I've been in all of them. But I can then also say when you find that you have your own way in that, it will open more doors than you can ever imagine. At least people will start listening. What a 6'5", 240 pound ex football player channeling angels. There's a reason for it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
And
there's
to be curious about what's the reason is probably a large part of that growth and that evolution.
and I think the biggest reason is that there are men are a little bit slower to wake up. And there are a lot of women and there's a lot of marriages that are in jeopardy because the woman's trying to wake up and the man's not ready to step into it yet.
Mm.
And sometimes when you get away from spirituality and just talk science, things start making sense and it's opens some doors. It opens
So
the
talk
windows
about
a
that a
crack.
little bit, right? Talk about the science and the spirituality
So
connection.
uh, the I think the biggest one is to realize that we're the creators of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
That as the observers, quantum physics tells us the observer, we affect what happens in our lives, and the perceptions that we perceive is truly our reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is huge in itself because we have such a victim mentality right now in the world that we think everything is happening to us.
Versus for us.
Hmm. Or because of us.
Uh-huh.
And in then, okay, so if as the observer I'm affecting this, then I'm creating this part of my life. Okay, well, what about me having this circumstance in my life, but there's other people in it? Well, several observers coming together drive a different reality. So, okay, so maybe there's a reason that you created this life with your spouse. Maybe there's a reason. And we can start looking at it from science showing us that this is truly what's happening to us as at least 3D energetic, 4D, 5D, 6D energetic beings. We can see, okay, this is why it's happening. And then realize that science telling us that we are all one because there's one energy and that energy unfolds and enfolds. Now you can look at spirituality and say, well, we're all one. I guess that makes sense.
Mm.
And then maybe willing to open the door a little bit more to move into the next phase. And I think once the motion gets started, then we can go back to Newtonian physics, right? A body in motion tends to stay in motion. So if we can get the motion going, now I don't think we would see as many divorces. I don't think we would see as many separations where I'm going to live my life my way, you live your life your way, and we're not going to have a life together type of thing.
You
I,
really feel
I, I think, yes,
the combination of the impact of the one in the discourse between people.
exactly. And then just think what businesses would be like if we could all find the reason that we're here and our gifts and talents, and we could use that understanding to hire and fire. We
Yeah.
could use that understanding to choose the company we want to be a part of because their divine intent, the company's divine intent, is in alignment with ours.
Yeah.
Or by being at this company, I can live my divine intent in a very big way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's just so many things that can open up, and science does point to all of these concepts of spirituality and spirituality points back to science. So
Yeah.
there's really no separation. They're really walking hand in hand.
I love it. I love it. So, where can people learn more about you and your work, and your book?
Well, I think the best way that we can deliver to your audience is if they go to imaginemiracles.com/extraordinary. I will give them an opportunity to learn a little bit more about us, but there'll be a couple free gifts for you. And for the first 5 people that want to chat with Mary and I about their unique purpose, they could sign up for a Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session.
Excellent. Excellent. And the question I always close with are what are three pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with our audience today?
Mm, I'm just going to be very succinct with it. You're special, you're unique, and there's no one in this entire universe exactly like you.
Mm,
So
love it.
live and be who you are.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Vince, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and sharing your gifts. We love to have men join us. I've had some pretty amazing men join us on Extraordinary Women Radio. So thank you for joining us, and thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me, and once again, thank you for what you're doing.
You bet.